The Valorant Champions Tour, Valorant's highest level of competition. The VCT features teams such as G2, Sentinels, Aspas and Friends, the Boaster and Crashy's Bromance, the Kings of second place, and the best team in Korea, Genji. There are currently 48 teams split into 4 regions, those being Americas, EMEA, Pacific, and China. Every region has a small handful of teams that win almost everything both domestically and internationally. And every other team is kind of irrelevant. To really push the fact that every other team is irrelevant, can you name every team in the VCT? There's going to be a link to a quiz where you simply name every team in the VCT. My point is that while you might be able to get every team in the regions that you watch, the other regions' worst teams are almost non-existent to you. I watch the Americas League because I'm an American, and I also watch the EMEA League because the games start at like 10 a.m. for me, and sometimes I have nothing better to do in the morning. However, for Pacific and China, I cannot be bothered to wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. to watch Valorant. When I took this quiz, I named every team in Americas and EMEA in under 2 minutes. But it took me over 5 minutes to remember that teams like Detonation Focus Me and JD Gaming exist. The reason that it took me so long to name these teams isn't because I'm dumb, but because these two teams have had zero impact on professional Valorant. Name one player from JD Gaming. There's 8 people on this roster, by the way. Not only are these teams providing zero cultural impact, they don't win games. DFM has won 4 VCT matches in almost 3 years of being a VCT team, which is why I think some teams either need to leave Valorant franchising or get kicked back into Tier 2. Because I want to kind of start some drama, here's who I believe should be relegated in every region of Valorant based on their 2025 kickoff and Stage 1 performance in their respective regions. From Americas, 2G, Loud, Furia, and Leviathan. From EMEA, Koi, Apex, Gentlemates, Giant X, and Carmine Corps. From Pacific, DFM, Global Esports, Zeta Division, and Team Secret. And from China, FPX, Tyloo, JD Gaming, and All Gamers. My bar for being on this list was having won 3 or fewer VCT matches in 2025. These 17 teams have only won 10 games against teams not on this list. These are the bottom feeders of Valorant franchising, which is why I would like to propose to Riot Games and Leo Faria that we send these teams to the shadow realm of Tier 2 Valorant. Currently, the way that promotion and relegation work right now in the Valorant ecosystem is after this year, there's an Ascension tournament for all 4 regions, and the winner of that tournament gets to play in the VCT next year. For relegation, there is currently no way for any of the 40 partner teams to get sent down. For Ascension teams, however, if they don't make champs, but they do make their league's playoff bracket, they have to fight in their region's Ascension tournament for a chance to extend their time in Tier 1. If an Ascension team misses the league playoff bracket entirely, they are sent straight back to Challengers. While I think it's a good idea to remove Ascension teams that are not on par with the rest of the league, the problem mostly lies with the partner teams. 14 of these 17 teams are partner teams, meaning that there is no way for them to be taken out of the league and make room for up-and-coming Challengers teams. So now, this is Bubba Wubba's new and improved promotion and relegation system for the VCT. After every split, the teams that don't make playoffs are put into a 16-team tournament for a chance to win one of the 4 open spots in the VCT. In addition to the bottom 4 VCT teams, Challengers team slots are going to be divided as shown. In Americas, 5 North American, 2 Latin American North, 2 Latin America South, and 3 Brazilian teams. In EMEA, currently there are 6 subregions. 2 teams from each subregion will qualify, except for Northeast, which will have 3, and MENA, which will have 1 team. In Pacific, currently there are 5 subregions. Each region will have 2 teams, and Korea and Southeast Asia will have an additional slot. In China, it's all circuit points. Every team in the Chinese league is Chinese, so the top 12 circuit point teams will qualify. The tournament format is going to be the same as Valorant Champs. 4 groups of 4, double elimination bracket, with the top 4 teams getting to play in the VCT. I want this format to be forgiving, both qualifying for and forgiving once you get into the tournament. I want to know which of these teams is the best, not who's playing well or bad on one particular day. With this system, it forces teams that want to stay in the highest level of Valorant to play good Valorant. If a team doesn't play good Valorant, they're still able to fight for their spot against rising challengers teams. It gives numerous teams the opportunity to fight for a spot in the highest level of competition. In Americas, I want to see just how good teams like Envy are compared to the rest of VCT Americas. I want to see Kane Zera hit jumping peaks on some poor unsuspecting Soul. I want to see new teams be able to fight for a chance to prove that they are the best in the world. In addition to more competition in the VCT, it also gives a greater incentive for organizations to enter and compete in Tier 2 Valorant. If an org knows that getting into the VCT is 4 times easier, Valorant might be a game that they choose to compete in. One of the biggest issues in Tier 2 Valorant, especially in North America, is money. Orgs can't afford to compete in Valorant. If a team gets promoted and starts getting VCT stipend money and team bundle money, they might be able to sustain a Valorant team for years to come. It's miles better than getting money from match fixing. I know someone out there is saying,
Bubba, why do you care about what's happening in Tier 2 Valorant?
Whether you realize it or not, Tier 2 Valorant is the foundation and lifeblood of this game. In VCT Americas, 34 of the 61 players have played in challengers since the beginning of franchising, and that number will only go up. If Valorant doesn't actively sustain its Tier 2 scene, the competitive scene entirely will implode from the bottom up. Look what happened to Overwatch. Overwatch's Tier 2 system was quite literally practice games with nothing really happening to the winner other than getting scouted by other teams. Orgs had zero reason to enter Overwatch, and eventually the orgs already in the game left. This left many Tier 2 Overwatch pros without a job, and right around that time was when Valorant got released. And that's when people like Munchkin, Carpe, and Patapan all jumped ship and started playing Valorant. Now Overwatch is pretty much dead. The same thing happened with Counter-Strike in North America. Tier 2 NACS pretty much doesn't exist. This is Lake, the most recent American CS player to break into the big leagues. Before joining M80, Lake had only really played for orgless teams like Carpe Diem. His other teams don't have Liquipedia pages, so I think it's safe to assume they don't have orgs? I don't know. NACS almost never sees anyone new come into the scene. That's why all the best NA teams brought in European players instead of finding or developing their own region's talent. Valorant's Tier 2 system is in a very vulnerable position right now. It has the chance to be a super competitive environment where orgs can compete for a spot in the big leagues and where talent can emerge and develop into world-class players. It can also just as easily be the first domino to fall in what would be the downfall of an amazing game. Especially in light of how bad match fixing apparently is here in North America, I could only imagine that other regions with smaller salaries have an even worse match fixing situation. Valorant's competitive scene is a pyramid, with the Tier 1 pros at the top, then the Tier 2 pros, then the semi-pros and premier demons, then the ranked players, and the everyday casual player base as the very foundation of this game. If any one of these layers cease to exist, the game as we know it today might also cease to exist.